Good morning. I'm still very thoughtfully getting down to the floor. So that's what you're watching there, if you saw that. And I am sitting better, cross-legged on the floor. Slowly. Yeah. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining us for practice again this morning. For those of you who don't know, some of you are new to class, I am, as of today, what is it? Yes, today is 4 weeks since my hip replacement on my left hip. So now I am double bionic, right hip and left hip. It is not as a result of yoga, just to clarify. I was in a motor vehicle accident and I had some damage to both of my hips. Please tell your passengers not to put their feet on your dashboard, which is what was happening when I was in the passenger seat during this particular accident. And it was a minor accident, a very understandable, simple minor accident. The word accident, that's why we have the word. And so please tell your passengers, no feet on the dashboard, no feet outside the window on the rearview mirror, those sorts of things. So I am recovering really well, and thank you for your text messages and your emails about that and your support too. Okay, we're going to dive into this practice this morning, exploring once again the relationship from the first chakra to the fourth. First chakra representing this potential we have for using vulnerability, a wise kind of vulnerability, as a way to feel really connected to life and to each other, and to have our full spectrum sense of the human condition as something we're all capable of. I spoke about that on Tuesday morning, and I spoke on Monday morning about 2 other forms of vulnerability, so you can go back and listen to those if you'd like to. But this that we're tapping into at the first chakra is also a place where we want to have a sense of our stability, our root, our sense of earth and ground, so that we don't succumb to fear, terror, and shame, which are some of the sort of lurking emotional physiological responses that we could have there. And then the fourth chakra is the seat of compassion. The word for that is karuna. And that compassion can be offered from our hearts, of course, out to the world. As Sharon Salzberg said, a heart as wide as the world. But it can also be offered from our hearts to our first chakra, to that which is still needing our attention there, from our heart to the second, from our heart to the third. So it's a resource for us inside as well. Okay, so let's sit for a little bit of quiet together. I'm so pleased to actually sit cross-legged with you guys and have my knees on the floor again. Not because that's the high point of sitting for anybody, but this because my structure has sat this way for a long time and it does feel like coming home. So please take the seat that is yours for homecoming, and you can rest your hands in your lap. You're welcome to close your eyes if you like. And allow your breath to bring you back home as well. So if your seat is stable, the word for that is stiram. If your seat is stable and also easeful, the word for that is sukham, then you are seated in what we call asana, the posture. And the breath knows where to find you. You are at home, and your breath can meet you there. And see if as you're sitting and sort of arriving in your home, can the inhale come down to lightly touch the pelvic floor? It's possible that you don't have access to that yet, that you may be holding the residue of stress or emotions or undigested thoughts or life experiences or undigested food. As we say in yoga, that's called ama. So it might be that your breath only comes down so far. But if you consider releasing unnecessary tension, can the inhale find its way down to the pelvic floor? And during the exhale, might you sense a gentle tone at the front hemisphere of the pelvic floor? The back is also there, but the front may need more attention. And then that tone comes up the front of the spine. And then please bring your hands together at your heart. And notice if that sort of further centers your mind, your body, or your breath. So in our practice this morning, we'll start with Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu. May our practice protect us from unhelpful thoughts. May our practice nourish us in the ways that we need. May our practice remind us of our inner strength so we have the vigor required when needed. May our practice help us to overcome forgetfulness and to return to clarity and sanity. May we not feel impatient or intolerant with ourselves or each other along the way. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Savidyam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidveshavai Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Savidyam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidveshavai Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Savidyam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidveshavai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. With your exhale, you may bow your head to your heart. Release your hands, please. And I would like you to sit, if you're able to, in Siddhasana. And Siddhasana means you have the heels lined up with the pubic bone, and the knees go out to the side. We're not stacking one foot on top of the other. That moves into the Padmasana sort of seats. This one is called Siddhasana. And you could choose either foot inside or outside. I only have one option right now. I can't switch it yet. My left hip wouldn't be comfortable with that. I'd also like you to have 2 blocks close by. Okay, great. So we're going to be using a twisting practice here to come into the first third, the lower part of the pelvis, and then to the middle third, and then to the upper third. So bring your left hand across to your right knee and plan to be moving in this direction towards a forward bend. So left hand across. Now you might feel a little bit stiff first thing in the morning here. Walk your right hand out on the block. And as you inhale, breathe into the lower part of the pelvis and the back of your waist. You might notice the left side more than the right, but try to make the breath circumferential. And as you exhale, press down into your right hand and add a little bit of a twist of the belly to your right. You may only sense that on the inside. It might not be visible on the outside. Let's do that a couple times more. So the inhale, really you take your time breathing into the back hemisphere of the pelvic floor, the back of the sacrum, the back of the waist. Of course, the front belly will also be there. And then exhale and turn your belly to the right by pressing into your right palm more firmly. And then please walk yourself back up to sitting. Bring your block with you and notice when you come back to center, you probably feel asymmetrical. We're going to go to the other side. So walk your right hand across. Take the left hand out on the block and slide it in the direction that your diagonal is going. It's okay to bow your head or to have a kind of inwardness about your mind, your eyes, your senses. When you breathe in, you might notice again the back hemisphere of the pelvic floor at the beginning of the inhale, back of the sacrum. The back of your waist may be the right side more than the left side because of the side bend, twist, forward bend that we're doing. When you exhale, press down into your left hand and make a little twist to your left of the inner belly. Almost like how the washing machine turns on the inside, but the outside of the washing machine is stable. You're turning the inner belly, and the outer body is likely remaining pretty stable. The hips and thighs and knees don't get distorted. And let's inhale and slide back to center, rising up. And notice again what's happening. Let's put the hands like this, like a little shape of the pelvis, and see if you can sense the breath coming down into the pelvic basin. And then exhale, place your hands on the lower belly and just encourage a gentle tone that starts at the pubic bone and goes upwards through the inner belly, upwards through the spine. And then switch your legs to what we call Sukasana, where you're going to cross your ankles. So to cross the ankles, for me, because I'm sitting up on 2 blankets, and because it's more comfortable for my recent surgery, when I cross my ankles, I also put the blocks for my knees. So my knees are about the same height right now as my hips. I think it might look distorted on that camera, but as I sit here, I can sense this, maybe they're a little bit lower. So be comfortable in yourself. Take the back of your left hand to the outside of your right thigh. Place your right hand on your left hand to secure that hand, and make a twist to the right with a little bit of a side bend to your left. And let's now see, even the firmness of your left arm across your abdomen, let's see if you can help the breath to come into not only the low pelvis now, but the mid-torso, including the right side waist, right kidneys, the back of the body. And then bring your torso upright. Turn your left hand so your palm is facing your right thigh. Walk your right hand behind you and please twist to your right. And notice the fullness of the breath in the first 2/3 of the torso. And then let's exhale, come around to center. And again, you can change the cross of your ankles. I actually recommend that. I'm just not able to accommodate my left hip changing the ankles yet. It will come. So now take the back of your right hand around the outside of your left thigh. Take your left hand to secure your right hand. We do want the forearm to be firm against your abdomen or your torso. And as you twist left, make a little side bend to your right. And take your attention down and in so you have the left side of the torso, left lower back. Of course, everything is there, but you can emphasize the left hemisphere, the pelvis, lower belly, mid-torso. And then please come upright, turn your right palm so it faces your left thigh. Walk your left hand behind you and twist to your left. So with the spine more upright, you might sense the twist happening in different places, but also now make the left low back, right low back equal. So the spine's really vertical. And then when you exhale next, come around to face forward and let's take both legs out to Dandasana. I know you're listening to the sound of my feet on the carpet there. So when you take the legs out to Dandasana, sit upright as well as you can, and then bend your right knee up to your chest snugly for you. So snugly would be something like this. This is my right leg. I'm going to use my left leg as my right leg in a moment. So you go snugly and I'll go to what my capacity is. Cross your left hand over your right knee, and without pulling your knee to the center line, actually reach your right hand behind and use this leverage to twist your upper body now to the right. So now we want the inhale to be first third, middle third, upper third of the breath. And this twist really addresses more your thoracic spine because you've added this flexion of your thigh towards your torso. And see if you could imagine the breath kind of rising up like a spiral. So it's wider at the top, starts at the base of the pelvic floor, expands circumferentially, and the collarbones and the shoulder blades benefit from that ever widening inhalation. And then exhale, come around to face forward. And let's bring the left knee up, take the right leg out. And cross your right hand around your left knee. Lengthen up through your spine and walk your left hand around behind you. So these might not be your deepest twists because you haven't had much warm up yet, but this internal investigation, I really want us to sort of capitalize on this first, middle, upper, third breath this morning. So as you're rotating, see if you can have this sense that it's an ever expanding spiral, the breath rising up to the heart, again, to quote Sharon Salzberg, the heart as wide as the world, that expression of karuna or compassion. And then please exhale and come around to face forward. Great. Now take whatever seat is yours for meditation. We'll do a quick pranayama, meaning brief. I'm trying to tell you that you're not going to sit forever in this class. I'm telling my hips that too, my left hip. But I do want us to sense now what is the power that we could have with the first third of the breath, middle third of the breath, upper third of the breath. So this is the widest part here. So sit upright, please. Place your hands out over your knees. Bring your attention down to the second and the third chakra. 5 strong exhales, 1 long exhale, and inhale through both nostrils, suspension, and then exhale out like a tiny cocktail straw out through the lips, like that. Here we go. Inhale through the nose, Ujjayi. Suspend. In your own timing, exhale like a tiny cocktail straw. And then deeply relax. As we go to repeat that, during that inhale through the nostrils, try to sense that first, middle, and upper third of the breath. Please begin when you're ready to. Remind yourself to completely relax at the end of a full cycle of that practice. May our minds feel quieted by this series in the Pranayama. I'd like you now to come over to Vajrasana, and also that you'll have the capacity for table pose where you place yourself. Okay, so Vajrasana is also called kneeling. It just has a fancy Sanskrit name. And when you come to Vajrasana, if the floor seems far away for you, left or right, then put your blocks down so that you won't feel like you're compromising your spine at any time. And let's come forward to table pose, hands and knees pose. From here, place your right hand well forward of your left hand. Reach it forward and press your fingers down like the cat's claws. Reach back with both hips and touch your left elbow down. Now this isn't child's pose, so the hips are only going back a short ways from table pose. Because you walk the right hand forward, really lengthen the right side of your waist. Relax your head as you like. Turn your right tricep in towards your nose. And start moving your right sitting bone further back than your left. Even you can swivel your shins and your feet to the left so that you're making a little C shape in the right lower pelvis and right lower belly. Breathe along the right hemisphere of the torso. And then return your shins and feet to the center of the mat. Press down through your left hand and walk your right hand back to table. Take the left hand well forward of the right. Press into your fingerprints and your thumbprint. As you reach your hips back, touch your right elbow down. Rotate your left tricep in towards your nose. As you relax your head, you can start taking the left sitting bone further back than the right. Shift your shins and your feet to the right. Like the rudder on a ship, you're taking the rudder to the right. And my hope is you feel the left lower belly, left lower back, maybe the left outer hip. Resist the urge to lean your hips to the right, so they're still vertical over your knees. And then bring your shins back to center so your rudder is straight on. Press into your right hand, walk your left hand back. Now take the right hand forward of your left hand, come to the back of your right hand, and as you come down, come to the back of your right wrist and the back of your right forearm. You might rest your head on your upper arm. So there's a little twist of the upper spine to the left and a side bend on the right sideways. Again, you can take your rudder off to the left, so your feet and your shins can go left. Breathe into the right hemisphere of the torso. And then bring your rudder back to center. Press into your left hand. Slide your right hand to table pose. Take the left hand well ahead of the right hand. Turn to the back of your hand. Come down to your left wrist, left forearm, left elbow. Maybe you'll rest your head on your upper arm. As you're twisting your spine to the right, your thoracic spine, swivel your rudder, your shins and feet to the right, and feel into the side bend on the left side of the torso. And breathe in one more time. And then shift your shins to center, press into your right hand, slide your left hand back. And now walk the hands a little bit forward so your table pose is a longer table. Curl your toes under, reach into plank pose. And then reach back to downward facing dog pose and gaze back between your big toes in downward dog. Let's put the feet so they're just hip distance apart. It's about the distance from one big toe to the other. If you were to put your fist there, that would be about the distance that you're working with. And gaze back between the toes. Lift the base of your skull so you're not hammocking your spine towards the floor. We're not pushing the chin towards the toes. Enjoy a deep breath along the back side of the body. And then come forward, touch your knees down, and sit back to Vajrasana, so your hips are on your heels, if possible, or you can put a blanket between your hips and your heels to make that more comfortable. Okay, raise your left arm up alongside your torso, using a block as needed, or going without the block, place your right hand on the floor and side bend to your right. In the side bend, once that's firmly established, keep your right arm very stable and start twisting your upper body to your left. Keep the left arm also stable, so in your side bend, the left palm is facing the floor, right? And your left tricep turns towards your nose. Keep that as you start rotating your chest to the left, not your armpit, not your tricep, not your left elbow. Again, right arm strong, and then as you exhale, tone your left low belly and rise up to center. Release the left hand down. Use a block if you prefer. If not, put it aside. Raise your right arm and side bend to your left. And make it strictly a side bend at first, so you can feel the arc of the torso shrinking the left lower waist and expanding the right lower waist. And keeping the left arm strong, start rotating your thoracic spine to the right. You're not turning from your armpit, nor your tricep, nor your elbow. We're turning from the force of the left arm going down and the thoracic spine and the rib cage twisting to the right. This distinction is important because when we go to something like side angle or a twisted version of triangle, I really want you to sense, where does the rotation come from? With your next exhale, root into your right low belly, rise up, raise both arms. And then exhale, sweep the arms wide and come down. Okay, and let's come up to standing now for Surya Namaskar. And I'll be modifying. You might be modifying too. So rise up to stand, please. Let me get this camera angle. Come to the front of your yoga mat. You will only see a portion of me because of the computer is quite close to where I'm standing right now. I think by next week I'll be back in my yoga room in the other part of the house. Okay, so for right now, taking a stance in mountain pose, join your hands together at your heart. Energize your toes, inner arches, outer heels, inner thighs, outer hips. Remember, from Monday and Tuesday, the tailbone goes down, pubic bone comes up slightly, but it's the sense that you're toning from the top of the hip bones and the sacrum down towards the sitting bones. You're not squeezing the sacrum like your butt is two egg beaters from the old-fashioned egg beater. Okay, now Ujjayi, sweep the hands down, and first third of the breath, middle third, upper third, look up. Exhale, chair pose. As you sit down into chair pose, we're going to stay for several breath cycles and see if you can explore first third, middle third, upper third of the breath. Your body's going to trust the process more when the foundation is still stable. So that is your feet, inner thighs, outer hips, pelvic floor. With your next exhale, press down, and as you rise up, take the arms into a Y shape. Remember the phrase, the heart as wide as the world. Inhale into a little standing back bend. And then exhale, make your hips vertical to your heels, shift over the tops of your thighs and come down to Uttanasana. Inhale, glide your heart forward, Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale for a deep bow to your legs. Inhale, glide forward, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, take your left toes straight back. And in your own timing, inhale, rise up to your crescent lunge. And in that crescent, raise your arms first third, middle third, upper third. Take the arms like the letter Y. And see if you can sustain that for several breath cycles. So if the foundation is really trustworthy, that is the toes, the heel of the front foot, the inner thighs, outer hips, pelvic floor, then what fountains upwards for the heart, you do feel like the heart as wide as the world is a possibility. And then exhale, bring your hands to your heart, gaze straight on. And breathe in compassion from your own heart down to the base, the second, the third. And then let's exhale, come over your right thigh, please, and step backwards to plank pose. Exhale, downward facing dog pose. Turn your triceps in towards your nose so the back of the heart is broad. Now we're going to repeat this sequence that we do frequently. Let's inhale slowly forward to plank pose, gaze down between your thumbs. Exhale to cow pose. When the knees touch down, the chest and heart are already open. Now inhale, come forward to seal pose, looking up. Exhale, table pose, connect to the deep inner belly. Inhale, plank. Exhale, downward facing dog pose. And then inhale, raise your left leg high behind you. And exhale, step your left foot forward between your hands. Root into your left heel, and then inhale, first third, middle third, upper third, rise up to your crescent lunge. Take the arms like the letter Y. And as you're looking up and raising up, don't forget that each inhale is going to start at the base. So we keep returning to that sense of home, the sense of root or stability. With your next exhale, bring your hands to your heart and level your gaze. Then if you can, close your eyes. So the compassion of the heart, not just going out to the world, but going down to your root, second and third. And then exhale, come over your left thigh, touch both blocks, and please step backwards to plank pose. Then exhale, downward facing dog pose. Inhale, glide forward to plank. Exhale, cow pose. Touch your knees lightly down, bring the chest and heart forward. Inhale, slide forward to your seal pose. Make the arms strong, look up. Exhale, table pose. I like how we connect to the low belly there. And then inhale, plank. Exhale, downward facing dog. And with your next inhale, raise your right leg high, up behind you, Ekapada, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then step your right foot forward between your hands, and second foot forward between your hands. Inhale the heart forward, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, deeply bow over the legs. Inhale, rise up, upward hands pose. And exhale, hands to your heart. Okay, same idea now, smoothly with a little bit different pace. So inhale, rising up, arms wide like the letter Y. Exhale, chair pose, arms parallel alongside the ears. Breathe in your chair pose. Exhale from your feet and hips, root down, rise up, look up. Inhale, open the arms like the letter Y. Exhale, Uttanasana. Place your hips directly over your heels and bow forward, don't swing backwards. Inhale, glide forward through your heart. Exhale, left toes straight back. Inhale, rise to your crescent, even though I'm not going up with you. Exhale your hands to your heart in that crescent. Breathe into your lower belly, first, second, third chakra. And then exhale, come forward and touch the blocks. Inhale, plank pose. Exhale, downward facing dog pose. Inhale, release smoothly, plank pose. Respect the inhale pause. Exhale smoothly, cow pose, the chest and heart already open as the knees touch down. Inhale, forward to seal pose. Exhale, table pose, gaze down between your thumbs. Inhale, plank. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, raise your left leg high. And exhale, step your left foot forward between your hands. With your inhale, rise up to your crescent. You can have that Y shape. And then bring your hands to your heart and take the next breath into your low pelvis, second and third chakra as well. And then exhale, come over your front leg, place your hands firmly and step in the inhale to plank pose. Exhale, downward facing dog pose. Inhale smoothly to plank. This time exhale, come into seal pose directly. Step over the tops of your feet so the toes are pointed, and then inhale to light up your seal pose. Exhale, table pose. And then glide back to child's pose, taking one block to rest your head on. And you can take the forearms down to the floor in a kind of pranam. I'm not practicing child's pose yet. And in child's pose, I want to encourage you to bring your awareness into the pelvic floor and to sense the breath just as it touches there. Like, what is your relationship today to healthy vulnerability? How much are you able to kind of set aside the stresses of life and the habits of the mind to feel like you're a teeny tiny speck on a very large rotating orb in a universe beyond our comprehension? Perhaps the vulnerability that you're touching base with today is the one where we sense we are the full spectrum of the human condition. We all have the seeds of this human behavior that we dislike, even despise. Another vulnerability beyond that one is the recognition that none of that can actually define us. We are something larger than the seeds of human expression, whether it's auspicious or inauspicious expression. There's something that we can't be defined by. And that vulnerability is this sense of like, oh my gosh, we are a part of all that is. And our uniqueness, it has its place, but we are beyond that. It can't contain us. Please walk your hands back towards your knees and rise up to kneeling and take the two blocks and place them so that they are shoulder width apart. Let's see if I put mine here as a little bit better for you. So when the blocks are shoulder width apart, yeah, I think I have the room. We're going to take the elbows down to the center of the two blocks. Turn your palms face up. And then as you reach your hips back, take the upper arm part of the elbow onto the blocks. Put your palms together like a prayer. It's helpful if your elbows are in the centers of those blocks. And as you reach back with your torso, the hands being in a prayer position will give you a little bit more internal rotation, less external. So start pressing your fingerprints against each other and make the wrists wider. So your fingers are very firm, and as you widen the wrists apart, your shoulders are going to rotate externally. In this position, let the upper back and the chest be broad, not collapsed down like an old horse in a field. Notice the upper torso here. Can the breath find its way from the low pelvis to your mid-torso, into the back of the heart, the sides of the chest, the space between the shoulder blades. Now keeping the fingers pressing against each other, come forward. So if your elbows are on the centers of the blocks, you have the front portion of your blocks to stabilize on. Come forward and let the hips come down. Raise your chest and heart up. It's kind of like Sphinx pose, but you're on the blocks. Press your shoulders back, widen your collarbones on the front side. There's a woodpecker that lives nearby, and the woodpecker just came to the metal chimney. So you might hear tablas. Inhale, open your chest and your heart, shoulders back, and then exhale, press down, raise up to your knees. You're in kind of a variation on plank pose. And then inhale, take the hips back, and again, the hands overhead. If possible, press your fingerprints against one another so you do have your wrists wider, not more narrow. And then once more, come forward. So inhale, see if you can come forward to that sort of variation on plank, table, sort of a dolphin on the knees, plank pose. And then let the hips come forward and down. Raise your chest and your heart up. Press down with the tops of both feet, please, and energize your legs, including the inner thighs. Roll the shoulders back. Say good morning to the woodpecker. And then raise up to your sort of awkward table dolphin plank thing. Place your hands on your blocks and press yourself up and return to Vajrasana, to kneeling. Rest your hands in your lap for a moment. And see if the breath can make it down into this pelvic bowl, the lower portion. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of work with the core muscles, the intrinsic core muscles, and I'm going to change the angle of the computer. There we go. That was a long reach for me, actually. Okay, so we're going to be lying on the stomach in Sphinx pose. You'll be on the forearms. We will not be using the blocks under the elbows. You put one block between the feet. And one of the instructions that you're going to hear me say is to lift the lower belly off of the yoga mat. I don't expect that for all of us, the whole belly comes up off the mat. It's, our structures are different. The length of the upper arm is different, the length of the torso, the size of the waist. But I want you to sense that you're lifting or lightening the lower abdomen off of the mat, because we don't want it just to pancake onto the floor. My hope is that my words will be clear enough that you'll sense the pelvic floor and the transverse abdominis, and then I'll give you some instruction where you can sense the oblique muscles too. So put one block back here for your feet. lie on your stomach. And come onto your elbows. You can put the palms together like a prayer, like that. The block should be on the flat setting so that it has your ankles as wide as your hips. I just tipped mine to change it so it's on the flat setting. And go ahead and squeeze the block between your ankles. And there you're going to feel the inner thighs. And depending on when you squeeze the block like that, the shape of your legs and your hip sockets, you'll probably sense the inner thighs go towards the ceiling. And the sitting bones kind of widen apart a little bit. Then take the tailbone down towards your heels, and your thighs should come to neutral rotation. So we're not squeezing the butt like an egg beater. And then press down into the elbows. And now as you exhale, just begin to lighten the pressure of the lowest part of the abdomen against the floor. And zip that up towards your navel. When you inhale, you want to allow for the breath to have some elasticity. So it's not that you drop all the tone in the body, but you're not bracing yourself. Tone and bracing are not the same thing. The tone is there and the inhale can still come in to expand in the lower belly. Now keeping that little area of the low abdomen lifted. When you exhale, start adding. You're going to bend your knees and pick up the block behind you. You may feel your hamstrings get engaged and the tone of the butt should be there. But when you raise the block with your feet, if your lower back pancakes against the floor, then you have some really important information for you about the conversation that your muscles are having. Let's lower the block down, and that's sometimes where you get the most information. You put the block down and you realize, oh, wait, I could have kept the tailbone in place. I didn't realize that it had gone away. And you can kind of re-recruit that now. Breathe in. You're going to squeeze the block with the ankles. There's the inner thighs, the tailbone. Exhale, lift the skin of the lower belly up off of the floor. Press into your elbows. And then practice picking up the block with your feet. Without having the lower belly pancake against the ground. And then let's exhale, lower that down. Hopefully you've maintained the tone in the lower body. And now you can press the tops of your feet, the tops of your knees, and your thighs down. Root the tailbone and lower yourself to where you need to be to sweep the arms wide into Salambasana. My hope is that this feels like a cohesive experience for your pose, not like you're just exploiting your lower back right now. And as you next exhale, lower your arms alongside your torso, turn your head to one side, and relax all the efforts you were just making. And thank you for joining me on some of my core rehabilitative exercises. Please place your palms face up next to your hips. Lift your hip bones and put the fingertips just inside the bony landmark of the hips. Maybe you're ticklish. Take the block between your ankles again. Okay. Let's bring the pubic bone a little bit towards the belly button, just a tiny bit. And then as you intentionally tone the lower abdomen, imagine lifting the skin of the lower belly just lightly up off the floor. The bones of the body may be moved by that action, but you're not moving your bones to make the action. And squeeze the block between the ankles and start to slowly pick it up. While still sensing, oh, you're lifting the skin of the lower belly off the floor. As you pick up the block, you might be able to bring it up to vertical this time. Keeping that tone in the lower belly, and start to lower the block back down. Place it thoughtfully down. Relax your legs, but not the inner abdomen. Then relax the inner belly. And place your hands beneath your shoulders. We're not going to bend the knees this time. We're going to do Cobra Pose. But I would like you to sense how you can bring all this together. So please set your shoulders first forward towards the ears, then back. And when you rise up to Cobra, let us sense your ankles on the block, the inner thighs, the tailbone, the intelligence of the lower belly, the lift of the heart. Hopefully the chin has no need to exploit this pose or think that it's somehow responsible for your pose. And then as you exhale, lower down slowly. Press up to cat pose. And then walk your knees towards your hands. Come up to kneeling. Thank you for joining me for that part of what is part of my rehab. And I hope it's informing some of your yoga poses too, that they could feel more stable, like, oh, yeah, the word stiram sukham asanam, a steady, easeful asana, a steady, easeful experience in a pose. So now let's please lie on the back with two blocks. We are getting ready for Shavasana. The two blocks are going to be for your feet to be on. You can put yours on the medium setting. I have to go for the flat setting. I'm not ready for the medium setting yet. So lie down with your knees bent. And place your feet on the block so that they are hip distance apart. It's okay for them to be a little bit wider. I wouldn't go much wider, and I would prefer that they're not too narrow, that your blocks are not too narrow. Press down through your heels. Notice that that initiates the hamstrings. And try to sense the low belly. Once again, it's right across, like where you'd have the lap belt on the airplane, right across the two hip bones. And then raise up to bridge pose. When you come up to your bridge pose, as you get the pelvis and the legs set, you've got the upper third of the torso still kind of like in Shavasana, but you've got the lower torso and the legs in bridge pose. When you get here, then press down through your right upper arm, tuck the left shoulder under, press into the left upper arm, tuck the right shoulder under. You can lay the hands down on the yoga mat. Some people like to hold the sides of their yoga mat because it gives them some extra strength for the shoulders and the arms. You're welcome to do that. Some people like to interlace their fingers under their bridge pose. Keep a sense of how you're working with the lower belly, the inner belly. As you exhale, start to lower your hips down, but keep your bridge pose in your chest and your heart. If possible, you can sit on the back of your wrists, hands, or forearms. Put the two blocks aside with your feet. The shoulders are still tucked under. Straighten your left leg, right leg. Press into your palms and elbows and come into fish pose. And then exhale and roll down. Release your hands. Palms face up. Please come to Shavasana. And let's imagine in this Shavasana this morning that from the heart as wide as the world, which of course we often generously want to give our compassion outwards, but I'm going to ask you to imagine in Shavasana that you're sending this compassion from the heart, your heart, the heart of that larger love that is borrowing you in life. And let's send that compassion down to the first chakra. Compassion for the parts of us that get ungrounded or unmoored during the day, where we get lost in the massive sea of life. Compassion for the parts of us that find it very frightening how tiny we are, how immense the cosmos is. Compassion for the parts of us that have succumbed to shame or in our criticism. Compassion for the part of us that's growing and evolving, and sometimes we're out of step or out of rhythm with friendships or family members that we've known for a long time. Compassion for all the ways in which vulnerability is expressed. In this way, compassion says, from your heart to the first chakra, I kind of like you say, I see you there, and we still want to encourage. The word courage is in the word encourage. We still want to encourage yourself to move forward, to keep growing, evolving. Compassion lets you not collapse or detour. Compassion encourages you not to self-sabotage. Allow yourself to really deeply rest. This compassion flows very naturally. It's already installed in your heart. Just sending it downstream to the root, to the base. And welcoming this stillness to go a little bit deeper. So to make a body memory of being here in the stillness in the cradle of your yoga practice. And please lightly deepen your breathing. And gently wiggle your fingers and your toes. And roll to your side before returning up to sitting. When you come up to your seat, please make it comfortable for you for just a couple minutes of meditation together. Listen for the possibility of that compassion just quietly vibrating and available not just to the outside world, but to the inner, particularly at the first chakra for this week. And please raise your hands to your heart. And imagine this inner quality of compassion again, that you could you could place it into the centers of your palms. And then as you place it in the centers of the palms, and take one hand down to the deep low belly, one hand to the second chakra. One hand to the third. And back up to the fourth. This kind of like tenderness or support for us on our journey. Return to Anjali Mudra. Thank you all very much for being here this morning. We also want to offer this compassion and our clear-sightedness to each other, and also to the wider world. Namaste. May your yoga practice, not just your asana, may it go with you through the day. I realized that earlier in class I said, oh, this is related to side angle and triangle, Parsvakonasana and Trikonasana. We were doing an action for that. And I didn't include those in the sequence today. Though I had an intention to, it didn't happen. So maybe tomorrow, Peggy is not required to teach those poses, but if she wants to, she can include them tomorrow. How are you feeling?